Welcome to this week's Winds of Spirit book study discussion. I'm Bridget Hopkins, and this week we're discussing Chapter 12, the weather vane process, staying balanced during changing winds. So welcome everyone that is current on the call and will be watching later. I would like to take a moment to bring all of our energies together and just get us nice and grounded and centered for this call. So if you'd be willing to close your eyes if you're able, and if not, then just slowly begin to soften your gaze. And let's tune into our breath. We're just noticing how we feel in this moment. Slowly draw your attention inward, and more inward, and more inward. So first you're noticing the room that you're in, then you're noticing where you're sitting, then you're noticing how it feels to sit where you're sitting. And start to pay attention to all of the other sensations that your senses are picking up on. What is the sounds near you? What are you smelling? Is there anything touching your skin that you're noticing, like where your clothing is resting? Take a nice deep breath. And notice where your feet are planted. And if you're lying down, then notice where you're right at the base of your tailbone is resting. And just invite that area to slowly begin to open and drop your roots or drop your anchor, whichever works better for you. And again, noticing your breath. Really take a nice deep inhale and feel it all the way in your body. And then blow it out. And I'd like us to use our imaginations to first meet in the field of our sacred space. And we'll slowly begin to walk under the stone archway into our beautiful stone enclosure. Walking into the right and circling to the left. And in the center, there's normally a fire. Recently, we used water. Today, I'm really being called to imagine that the winds are spinning in this very, I don't want to use the word strong. It's not as strong, but it's a visible, tornadic motion. But it isn't pulling us towards it. It's not that dense in strength. But we're just looking at it and we're allowing anything that's ready to come off of us. So any energies that don't belong to us, anything that may be weighing us down in our thoughts, anything that we're really ready to release, we can just gently begin to allow the energies in our sacred circle to funnel into the beautiful wind waiting in the center. So as you're just allowing that process to naturally take place, I'm going to reach into the wind bag and see what wind it is that we'll be giving this over to today in the center of our sacred circle. We have Johanna, the Turkish wind of guidance. So I'd like to use the whistle to welcome her and thank her for her assistance. And just taking one more moment, do a final check with your breath. Really take another nice deep breath and see if it travels farther in your body. And then blow it all out. And I'm going to invite Johanna to just slowly temper down a little bit, going deeper into the bowl, so that she'll still be present with us during this call, but not actively taking anything more from us in this moment that we're not willing to let go of. And we'll do a little check-in at the end and see if there's anything more that's ready to go. But in the meantime, we'll just invite her presence and her guidance during our call today. So ever so slowly begin to open your eyes, wiggling your fingers and your toes, and be fully present in this moment. Thank you. So what I would like to do for those that are currently on the call, I would like to open up the floor and just, if there's anything that you notice while reading this chapter that you would like to share, if there's been anything that's come up for you during this entire process from chapter 1 to the present chapter of 12, feel free to share that. As long as it's wind related, let's do a check-in and see how everyone's doing in the book study, and then we'll go on further with the call. So whoever would like to join first, just go ahead and make sure you unmute yourself.
Hi. I did have a question about calling in the Cardinal wind, which I've been doing in the morning.
I can't hear you, Paula.
Now?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I had a question about calling in the cardinal winds, which I do in the mornings. And so you're inviting all 4 of them to come to help you navigate your life for the day. Is it necessary to send them back at a later point in the day? Or is that only if you're doing a particular ceremony or meditation?
With the cardinal winds, I do like to send them back. Everyone works with them a little differently. How does it feel for you? Have you tried both ways?
Well, I have not been sending them back, except earlier when I had also called in wind gods or wind goddesses, and I felt like I wanted to stop doing some wind work for a while. Then I sent everybody back.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise I have not. But I really wasn't. I guess I think if you're asking them to help you navigate for the day, it seemed to me like, well, don't you want them to be there the whole day? Or if you send them away at night, then you're not covered.
Oh, well, here's a couple things.
Okay.
So the first thing to consider is, are you needing all 4's guidance and presence throughout the day? Does that feel a little windy, if you will? So
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. So one of the things that you can try is you can say hello to each of them in the morning and ask, one of the things, and again, this is all variation. So in the book, there's very specific practices, but we're going a little, just a little off center for a minute. One of the things that I like to do is I like to greet and then ask, doing a check-in with my body, noticing where I'm at, using myself as the compass, and then asking like which wind I'm needing to work with that day from the cardinal directions. That's one way that I've done it. Another way that I've done it is, looking in either the wind sack or the book and pulling that deity to work with, that wind deity. But I do recommend, it's not that you're not covered, but I do recommend, just for your own, again, looking at the energy body and how we're working with growing and assimilating all of these energies, I do recommend that when you're at rest to ask the winds, to disperse them.
Thank you. So you usually should work with only one wind, not all four.
Again, it depends on what you're seeking, what you're needing in that moment. I do recommend checking in with your body and seeing which of the directions you're most needing. Sometimes it's a west or a west and a south. Sometimes there are like two of them that are helping to steer you. But seldom do you need all four for your practice. Like they're more there for, guidance or holding the container, if you will, from the four directions. But they're not all always pushing on you, so to speak. Does that help?
Yeah, this is new territory then. I really have had a lot of questions about practically applying this material. Another sort of related question. I know in other traditions that sometimes people call in what's known as the four direction, or right, the four directions. How does that, is that analogous to what we're doing?
Yeah, exactly. So they're not all, again, like thinking of the wind, they're not all moving through you or all directing you. They're more like holding the container for you. They're with you, and you can use the medicine that they're offering, but it's not all coming at you, so to speak. Just like with the four directions. It's there, it's available, it's guidance, but what you're most needing will also be available in that moment. Does that help?
Well, it certainly, it gives me more information or a different direction. No pun intended.
Well, and we're working with the wind, so yeah. And really, Paula, one of the most beautiful gifts about the wind is that it is a personal relationship. And so using your own intuition is always helpful. So there's a lot of guidance and suggestion in the book, but then there's also your relationship that will naturally form with the winds. And I wouldn't want to work against that, with what my experience is. I want to help guide and foster support, but I also encourage you in that relationship to just notice what your intuition's guiding or suggesting.
Okay, good. Yeah, I appreciate your answers.
Yeah, always here for you.
Great.
Thank you for asking. Would anyone else like to ask a question or share what's happening for you?
Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Deborah.
I was just thinking about this comparison that Paula brought up with the medicine wheel. That gives me food for thought about this relationship with the winds, because I've been working with the medicine wheel for a number of years now, and I honor the different directions, but it's not like I'm specifically, when I do some different movements and songs and things where I honor each of the directions. And it's more of an awareness that they're there and that I'm there with them. And then when I am doing work on myself, it's more of where am I on the wheel? and what direction, if I'm too much in the south, then I invite the north in. Or too much in the west, I invite some east energy in. And then I'll work from there. With the winds, I've only been working with one at a time. I'm new to this, working directly with the winds. And I would find it too much to have too many going on. So I just like to, what I do is just in the morning, I sit and listen, and often I stand outside and let the winds I turn in all four directions, allowing the winds to touch me and to get a sense of where they're coming from. And then I go into the internal work. So today was interesting because I noticed, I've been looking at the fall leaves. They're beginning to change. It takes a little while in Texas. And one leaf, actually I thought it was a butterfly because it kept kind of flying in the wind, you know. And then I realized it was a leaf, a golden leaf from a cedar elm. So it's fairly small, but it was bouncing around in the wind. And so I realized it had to have been attached by maybe a spider web or something like that that I really couldn't see. I even went down and with my camera to kind of to get a video of it because it was so beautiful. And I was thinking about, well, where's the wind coming from? And at that point, it was coming from the south to the north and bouncing this leaf around. It was just so intriguing. I just really enjoyed that little meditative dance. And when a little bit later at noon, I noticed we're expecting storms today. So the first one was coming in right at noon, just as I was sitting down to read this chapter. And just at that moment, you know, the winds came in really strong and some rain and whatnot. But what was interesting, I went to stand out on the porch, and then it was coming from the north to the south. I mean, it had really changed from just maybe 3 hours earlier, 4 hours earlier. So I'm finding that I enjoy just being with the wind and just sort of identifying what's happening. You know, is it soft? Is it cool? Is it warm? Is it harsh? Is it whatever it is? And then it helps me to go inside myself. Now, I enjoy these practices in the book because they really take you into your inner winds, you know, and help you to see that it can be a whole different thing inside you than it is outside.
Right.
So I'm just trying to relate those. And most often I'm not really trying to make sense of it. I'm just sort of being with it. So we'll see how I progress. There are times when I work with specific winds, but anyway, it's interesting. I like this idea of the weather vane.
No, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, as a balancing tool. I love tools. So the compass, the weather vane. This is how I learn, is to visualize these things within me.
Right.
I've used the pipe in my tribal community work. I have an inner pipe that I use, and I realized that was speaking to me of the alignment that the winds are talking to me about. Especially Carrie, as I'm learning to use my voice in different ways, I had to first align myself. And I've done alignment work in Tai Chi and Qigong. So I was relating to that. And now I'm feeling that spinal blending of whether it's the pipe or, the compass is now there, and today it's the weather vane. So I'm having a good time. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And and taking this back to the medicine wheel for a second, the one thing that I was thinking of when you were talking, the center, right? The center of the medicine wheel is that place where, I think of the center as the heart, but in different traditions, they think of it as spirit or self. I mean, it can be a lot of different things, but it's also a place of rest. Like, I think of it as like the place to be, like literal being, just standing there with all the directions are there with you, but you're with that sacred beingness. And I think I just want to bring that point up with the wind work, because wind literally can take you from here and there and back over here and up and down and around. But taking that time to be still and rest and listen and not worrying or trying to make sense out of, the winds haven't had this much attention on them for over 10,000 years. So it's a relationship that takes time, it takes patience, it takes interest and curiosity and courage, and it's coming both ways, right? So that point of being is so vital in this relationship building, because sometimes you don't need to do anything except be, and it's more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
can I share one thing about the being in the center?
Yeah.
When I studied with the curanderas, we would say the word omateo, and say it with force. And as I learned to explore that word and how it was used in that culture, I realized that it was very much the center. It was like having a bit of all the directions in one place. So, it's a wonderful place to, like you said, to be. We're not always there, but it's like my goal. If I'm feeling off center, well, what is it that I need? A particular wind, a particular direction? What is it I need to create the balance? But if I don't know where I'm at, it doesn't do me a whole lot of good, because I don't know where to go.
Exactly.
So that's where all these tools really help. But I love the word omateo, and it has a variety of gods and goddesses that were brought together into like a little bit of everything. So it was really the center, and it was very heart-centered, very being-centered. So I love using that word in my work. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? All right. So on page 101 in chapter 12, she opens it up with speaking about what weather vanes are. Weather vanes are man-made devices that indicate which direction the wind is blowing. It is their function to turn with the wind while remaining fixed in one place. Now, the reason that I really appreciate the weather vane, one, I just think they're beautiful. They come in so many different shapes and sizes and decorations, and I love watching them. And what I love to watch is the freedom of the movement, that non-resistant place of just, allowing the wind to take them. But the other thing that I want to bring up is that when we're looking at a compass, the compass is in an enclosed fixture, if you will. And I've been really short on words this week, you guys, so bear with me. So, you know, it doesn't have that same fluidity that the weather vane does. So thinking about that when you are doing your, finding your center axis, you know, you can be the weather vane or the compass. Which one works better for you visually? So you don't have to be fixed on, well, to do this practice, I have to be the compass. You can also try it as the weather vane. Experiment and see what works better for you. For me, when I think about being a weather vane, that's so much easier for me to visualize sometimes than the compass. Well, one, it's a three-dimensional, right? The weather vane is three-dimensional. The compass is more two-dimensional, right? So just something to think about. And that was what came up for me. And I wanted us to just take a moment with our eyes closed and just imagine what you look like as a weather vane. What is your center post? You know, is it tall and thin? Is it tall and a little bit wider? Like, just really start visualizing, what would I look like as a weather vane? What would my decoration be? You know, because on all weather vanes, that center, that top point of the main stem has some type of ornate decoration on it. So what are you? What do you want to be? And if you're feeling really playful, you can just extend your arms outwardly, you know, and just kind of give a little twirl, like imagining that's you, you're the weather vane, and you're just moving with the wind and there's no resistance. And what would that feel like in your life to move so effortlessly without any impediment, nothing stopping you from freely spinning? What does that sensation feel like for you? And if you really, really want to get playful, so you have your two arms extended outwardly, what if the wind were coming straight through the intersection point of where, you know, your two arms are extending from your shoulder blades, and the wind came from the front and the back and joined you in this spin? What would that feel like? And just taking another moment to just move freely, just gently turning. What does that feel like? Do you like being a weather vane? Don't everybody talk at once.
I like being a weather vane. I can see where the compass is needed for different things.
Mhm.
When I'm setting out a project, directions and compass, you know, is more masculine energy,
Mhm.
whereas the weather vane is more feminine. It's more southern
Yes.
to me because of the flow.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate you pointing that out. There's just this freedom of movement, which I
Mhm.
love,
Mhm.
but I also know I need the compass as well. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, but just giving ourselves that, again, that freedom to experiment and just try it in different ways. Like for some, it might really be a lot easier to imagine themselves as a weather vane, more in, as you said, the feminine, you know. So it's just fun to experiment. And I just love the effortless movement of it, you know, and just taking yourself outside on a windy day and being a weather vane, playing in that energy, you know. Would anyone else like to share? Okay. On page 102, that's so funny. Okay. On page 102, when the weight of the pointer, let's see, when the weight of the pointer and sail are evenly distributed, the weather vane points to and moves with the prevailing wind. When unbalanced, resistance is created at the pivot, and the weather vane is unable to spin freely and give proper guidance. The same principle also applies to your body, mind, heart, and soul. And I want to just, check in with the community and say, what condition are you in right now? Which state are you in? Do you feel like it's really effortless, or are you feeling like you're a little stuck? Well, I'll be happy to share first. So I've been noticing over this last week or so that I'm going between the two. Like one moment I feel really free, and then I like tense up and create this, like stopping point, if you will. Like I'm almost too free. And so I've just been noticing that I've been like really, going too far out and then shrinking back in, and then going really far out and shrinking back in. And I've been asking myself, what is this resistance? Why is this here right now? And how can I help myself to be in balance between these two states? What do I most need? And what I most needed was a lot of time and attention to my inner world. Like my inner child was needing my attention desperately, because there's been so much transition lately within my life, and it doesn't feel as safe as it can for her. So my adult self feels really good in expansion, and I love expansive moments. Like that's the adult. But my child is like, what is happening? I need this, this, and this, and this to feel safe. And so I'm glad that I had the opportunity to witness that tensing up, and I could really feel it in my body. And then I could tune back in to understand, what are the emotions that are creating the resistance. So that's what's been going on for me.
Well, I can relate a little bit in that. I can think like I had 2 really good days. I work a lot on my daily spiritual practice and attitude and so on. And I was just really kind of feeling and feel good. Maybe I can do this next, and then come home and had 6 hours of heartburn.
Mm,
Stops you in your tracks.
yeah.
And that's how, for me, with the body stuff, it's like I feel like, oh, finally, maybe, I'm feeling well and trying to whatever live life, and then boom. Then I was really up. Well, heartburn is, luckily I haven't had a lot of it for a while, but it's horrible. It's whatever. It's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I start feeling I'm cursed. I don't understand why. It's like going out on a leash, and the leash pulls you back in with a
Mm-hmm.
vengeance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, is there a pattern I'm missing or something? I don't have an answer.
Well, I do.
Maybe there's one.
I laugh. I say I have your answer in jest, but I do want to just replay something that you just said. So you said, is there a pattern? And you answered that when you said, I feel like I'm on a leash and I go out so far and get pulled back. So yes, that's a pattern. Right? But what's driving the pattern, I think, is the next question. So there is a pattern visible, but what is creating that pattern? And what would be my next question would be, what is the next step after the pattern? What would it take to get there, to one more step beyond the pattern itself?
Yes.
Right?
Sign
Because
me up.
right, because if you're getting pulled back on that leash, that tells me that you're going so far in the pattern, right? And then you get yanked back. So what would it take to just go one step further before the yank back? The yank back will most likely still happen, but how do you just get one more toe out in front of you to see what's just over the horizon of that? You don't have to free fall, right? That would be probably, unwise, because the pattern seems like it's pretty well utilized and important. It sounds like it's an important pattern for you too. But what's just over that horizon? I have a curiosity to want to go with you and just kind of peek over a little bit, just a little bit, just to see.
I would like to get beyond that horizon, or have some new landscape would be nice.
So maybe if I can suggest something, my suggestion would be to use the book and, hold that question in your heart, whatever that question is for you, but make it a powerful question, Paula. Something that's really going to create some type of change, but it can be gentle. Whenever a change is happening and I'm a little unsure, I always like to emphasize a gentle change, as gentle as possible. And pull one of the winds and see who can support you going just a little bit farther.
Okay, great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Cheryl, it looked like you were going to say something and I muted you for a moment. Did you want to jump in?
To do this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I am very disconnected from this work just because that's the way it's been for me. But I am not unaffected by it, and which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I am noticing myself making forward positive progress I would not have ever thought possible in the past, really. And like, for instance, I had a cavity in my tooth. Going to the dentist for me has been one of the hardest things ever to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I obviously needed to get it taken care of. So I went yesterday and I didn't pre-medicate myself, which normally I would have to the hilt medicated myself with the little bit that I have that I could do that with. And as it turns out, I was able to tolerate the pain because they really can't ever numb me properly. Or getting me not to the point of being numb is really very painful and hard to tolerate. But I was able to tolerate it this time. And it was a relatively non-traumatic experience, which that hasn't happened before.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
it is wonderful. Very. So I actually, and I did read this chapter, and I feel like I need to reread it. And actually, there are chapters that I have not yet read
Mm-hmm.
that I have to go back and read.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a weather vane standing in my yard. It isn't there yet, but I will get one. It feels like very much the right thing to do. So, little incremental steps has been my way, and it's working, and I'm very grateful.
Yes, yes. That's a wind celebration, like a windbration.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
So one of the things, hold on, there we go. This, I love this. And I remember the first time that Renee said it in one of the classes, and I was like, what did she just say? Can you repeat that? Because I've never heard that before. Resistance is useful. Resistance is useful. This is page 102. As it highlights areas in your life where attention is required. So if we looked at resistance as an ally, at almost like your friend going, hey, come here, I want to show you something. It's right over here. You just have to go a little farther this way. Instead of what normally instinctively happens when resistance is around, we go, ooh, yeah, that doesn't feel good. I'm going to go back over here. I want that good feeling again. And I don't like this, whatever this is, this resistance. I don't know what you want from me, but I don't like it. And so that teaching in and of itself, and when you think about the wind can bring a lot of resistance. When we're against a headwind, it can be just so annoying and frustrating and like, ugh, I don't want you anymore. But what is it really trying to do? Is it trying to guide us in a new direction? Is it trying to show us our strength, that we can stand upright against a headwind? You know, there's so much information there. It can mean 1,000 different things if we're willing to get curious instead of looking away or turning away. So I love that one piece, and I just wanted to bring that into the conversation and ask each of you, what is your relationship to resistance currently in this moment? How do you currently view resistance in your life?
I have been looking at resistance for a number of months, all summer. I started with my patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, identifying things, and I just woke up to some things that I hadn't seen before. Resistance and procrastination have been two areas, resisting even looking at something that has been visible throughout my life. And I'm now at 68 years old seeing it. That was kind of a big deal. What's happened as I've paid attention and learned to embrace these patterns, but embrace resistance when I feel it, just sort of like you said, get curious about it. Mm-hmm. So what's happening here, Deborah? Why are you resisting this idea or this action, or, what's really going on? So it's a much gentler relationship now. It's not so forceful. Mm-hmm. But I have something else going on that I haven't quite figured out. And that is that I absolutely love my practices, love learning more tools and using them in my life. But I'm having a physical reaction here these past months as I've dug deep into all of this. And that is that I am very tired physically. And I'm lacking motivation. So that was what was coming up in reading this chapter. What I can do about this, what it's telling me. Why is my body so physically tired and requiring naps, 1 or 2 every day? It's just like. I can get up, and it's hard getting up. The motivation is lacking. I feel tired even after a decent night's sleep. So now I'm looking at that. What can I? And this has just come up after looking into how to speak, how to use my voice in nourishing ways. So I don't know. Haven't quite figured this out yet, but that's what I'm looking at right now. Is my body resisting what I'm doing? I don't know. Why is it so tired? So I am doing the Western doctor thing and checking out to see if there's any good reason for it. Haven't found any yet. So it could be, it's been an emotional journey this past several months, very emotional, deep work, deepest I've done in my life. So I thought I had gone there, but there's always these new levels.
It's like dust, you wipe the dust off and you turn around and it's dusty again. It's like, what? How did that just happen?
Yeah.
I literally just cleaned it. And it's the same way with all of this emotional processing. Yeah, I get that. I do. I understand that. And just, holding the intention for you that you get some answers around the physical tiredness that you're experiencing right now. It's definitely a communicator, and you're listening. So that's step one, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
I definitely, thank you. I definitely have had that experience on and off for quite some time. Which is interesting. And this is very new to my consciousness. And I'm not sure if it's true, but it's something that I've been noticing. So I think we're all pretty aware of ascension. And when I think of ascension, I think of it the same as the wind. And the wind goes very, very high, right? And it can also go right at ground level. And it's even going below ground. I mean, it's helping volcanoes and everything. So anyways, I was thinking about grounding and how sometimes grounding to the earth feels, I don't want to say that it's not enough, but it almost feels like something else needs to happen. Like, okay, well, I did all of that, but I'm still not locked in. Like something just hasn't clicked. And it occurred to me the other day that, when you're out, so thinking of a weather vane, right? So thinking of that spinning, it's pure openness. The weather vane is completely open to that moment, whatever is happening in that moment. Yet it's still on the ground. So I have noticed that there is a part of me that's really asking, open up more. Be more of the weather vane and open yourself instead of trying to stay locked into the ground. Be more, it's an A word, like, amiable. Be more amiable to being open in your energy body, in the crown, like allowing that level of openness. And that's been a place where I'm like, I'm not sure if I really want to do that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if this is like my truth yet, but it's something that I'm experimenting with and exploring. There's a part of me that's asking to stay more open, larger, if you will, and receptive. So I'm just, and it feels very grounding, which is, it's new and unusual for me. So it's something that I'm experimenting with. I'm not saying that this is like wind proven practice at all. Disclaimer. But I'm just noticing it, and it's helping my body. So it's something that my body and my consciousness are bringing to my awareness. Like, just pay attention to this. This feels kind of good. This feels like a missing piece right now. So, back to you, Deborah. It's like sometimes, that communication, it's like, ooh, we might actually be getting some new information, right? So the resistance is there, but it can be useful. It can help us get new information. I use the word curiosity. And one of the other things that I was thinking about with resistance, you would use procrastination, right? But when we think about resistance as being almost like a pressure, right? Like an applied pressure, like it's here. how well do we do with prolonged pressure? Right? Because some things that are under prolonged pressure actually bloom or they pop, right? Like something new, like it's almost like the force from within meeting the force from out, and then, you know, this alchemy takes place. So that's another thing about resistance that I want to think about, is like the tension point or the pressure that it offers. You know, if we can lean in just a little longer, and then, you know, go in the other direction and then try again, lean in again. And now this time lean in a little bit longer than last time. You know, what information do we gather there? Right? So it's just trying different things. It's different for everybody. It feels different for each of us. We all have our own threshold of tolerance, like how Cheryl was just saying. In the past, I would go to the dentist. It didn't, you know, I needed to be medicated. It didn't feel good. They can't numb me. But she leaned in a new way and got new information and found, wow, I don't need to be medicated. And I have a higher pain tolerance than I realized in the past. So that is working with the resistance. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Well, Renee made it. I'm just reiterating it through my own lens. On page 102, it is important to remember that the wind always blows in the present moment. I know that we just keep rehashing that one, but it's important. Wait a minute, sorry. Sometimes I do, let's see here, the present moment. All right, well, sometimes I use talk to text when I do the notes, so I'm not sure that this is the right. Anyways, I'll say it again. It is important to remember that the wind always blows in the present moment. If you're, see this, it's not the right word. If you're answer long-range weather forecast, it is essential to bring your attention back to the here and now. So I'm not, I feel embarrassed, but I can't find that sentence for whatever reason right now.
I found it.
Did you?
Can I
what
share
was the
it?
word?
Yeah.
Please. Thanks.
It says, if your goals and dreams are long-range weather forecasts, it is essential to bring your attention back to the here and now. Studying your current wind pattern will empower you to navigate safely through the trials and tribulations of daily life. But it started with that about the wind always blows in the present moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like, that word does not, I should have checked my notes. So how can long range goals be made manageable with present moment attention? I'll repeat that question because I know it's going to take a moment to be like, what? How can long range goals be made manageable with present moment attention? So when we think about how we plot and plan along the map of life, sometimes it's like a 1-year goal or a 6-month goal or 5-year goal, 10-year goal. But what if we were working from this moment? How is it possible to create those long-term goals from each present moment? And have you ever experienced that? Have you, is this like a new idea or have you actually implemented it? I'm just curious.
For me, it's like breathing into the idea. So I have this goal out there, and by breathing into it, I have a practice where I imagine, well, what would it really look like? This vision, this goal, and how do I get there? So by taking the present moment, the wind here and now, and using it to breathe into the idea, it usually gives me, um, uh, things that I may not have even paid attention to when the idea for this goal came up. So it kind of breaks it down, makes it more manageable. And I can see if it's really something, well, do I really want this? After I explore it, it's like that curiosity, kind of taking it apart. And I feel like it's breathing into it and observing it and how it might fit. Because you don't really know how things are going to turn out in the future. But it was interesting. I have a little example. My husband wants to get a new bed. He's not happy he has pressure point issues, shoulders, hips, etc. So on our date day, which was Monday, we went to a movie, had a meal, and as we were leaving, we saw this mattress place that had the purple mattresses in it. It's one of the ones he's exploring. So we just went on in and spent quite a bit of time with the sales lady and laying on the beds and all that. And we agreed before going in, we're not buying a bed today. You got to go back. So when we went back to talk about it, things that the woman said, or, is that really realistic for us? So, I mean, it's sort of like, okay, you want this new bed that's all comfortable, but how realistic is it getting there? You have to take it apart. Some of the things she said would not work for us. But, when you're in there and getting the sales pitch, you could easily just buy it. And then you'd think later, why did I do that? But it's like that for me with the goal. We have a goal of getting a new bed, but let's take a moment and breathe into this moment right now. And what is it we really need? And we can pull out the parts that are important. Right. And anyway, it helps. It helps us because neither my husband and I, we're not very good with decision making. And so one of the things I've done in the past is I have 3 sons, to teach them about a tool that's helpful is take the parts of whatever it is you want to do and sort of like lay it out on the table. So we would like have discussions, like a family discussion where, what do you think, whatever. And my husband and I would do this, making our little list of pros and cons, and we'd still go for what we wanted. But putting it out on the table, looking at it, feeling, breathing into it, and then figuring out if it feels right. And now I look at it, and that's getting the guidance, asking for help and getting the guidance.
Yeah, thank you. That's a big part. I was gonna circle around to that when we're in the present, the past isn't dictating our choice, and we don't know what the future is going to look like because we're right here. There may not be one. We're not even considering that, right? But the thing that we tune into more is all of the guidance and support that's right here in this moment. And for me, that's what helps make some of those long-term things more manageable. It's like, oh, I don't have to do this all by myself. Yay, that's amazing. That feels great. I have all of these wins and, community and whatever. Like, I just start to get information that helps me in that whole planning process and the ideology of it, of like, what could it look like? How could I get there? Blah, blah, blah. People will just pop in and it's like, oh, which reminds me about popping in. I just wanted to share with you guys, Deborah was mentioning it earlier about just going outside and being with the wind. Sometimes I like to ask, what wind is present right now? You would be shocked to start hearing the wind talk to you. and you just get a sense, or you can hear it, or you know what wind is right there with you in that moment. So sometimes we don't have to dictate it, so to speak, or like initiate, other than with that open-heartedness and the open consciousness, right? The willingness. But they'll answer you. And so that's another fun way that I like to play with the winds. It's like, good morning, happy day, who's here? Who's right outside my door, you know? Yeah, so is there anything else that anyone would like to throw in before we wind down our circle for today? I think we're pretty close to time here. And thank you, Deborah. Thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I would just like to take a moment and thank all of you for attending our call. It's always so fun to have these discussions and just see what we see, right? And learn what we're needing to learn in that moment, or what we most want to learn in that moment. So taking us back into that beautiful sacred space that we've all created together, really drawing our attention back to our circle, noticing Johanna in the center, just gently spinning. And check in with your bodies one more time and see if there's any final thing that wants to release to go to Johanna. And just really blow it out. And taking a quiet moment to see if there's anything else that she has for us. Is there anything else that she has as far as guidance for any one of us or all of us collectively? I'm thanking Johanna for being in our sacred circle and just inviting her to go ahead and disband, going where she needs to go next. Thanking each of you for taking your time out of your day, near and far, and being with us in this moment. Thanking you for your presence, your intention, your sharing, and your willingness to continue working with the winds and building these relationships. And thanking the four directions, Eurus, Zephyrus, Nodus, and Boreas. And giving gratitude to our bodies for all that the body does each and every day for each one of us. And when you're feeling complete, you can begin to go back out the stone archway. Wishing each of you a very happy weekend. And we will meet back here next week on Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to discuss Chapter 13. Until then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Have a great weekend.